Can you hear me?
Hi, hey everybody. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Beside me here, the greatest to ever play goalie in the history of any league ever is Britt. How are you?
I'm good. I think that might be pushing it a little bit, but I do appreciate this.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll leave that as is with the background. Great stuff. So if you were just watching The Neighborhood just a few minutes ago, and you saw me harassing Bill to no end, welcome over to the Cluster Puck Podcast, where I'm guessing Bill might give me the same treatment if he's in here. Great stuff, though. They wrapped up the Broncos season with a win. Amazing to see. Always good when a fellow Denver area gets a victory, and so they're going to wrap it up there. And I was telling Bill that they need to start covering Chargers games for the playoffs, since he loves the Chargers so much. But before we go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the Clusterfuck Podcast Show. You can get notifications. Make sure you turn on the bell icon to get notified whenever anything from the MHRT network goes live. So subscribe, like, follow on Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you can get your streaming platforms to see our smiling faces on YouTube. If you want to follow us specifically, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, or Twitter and Instagram. That's Clusterpuck Avs, and that's AVS, no apostrophe, no nothing. That's Avs is AVS, and then Facebook is the Clusterpuck Podcast. Email us with any complaints, like how terrible of a job I do, or whatever else you want to say. Just email it at I don't care, go get a life, I'm not answering your complaints.com. Just kidding. But let's get into it now. So, Britt, this week was, I don't know what to tell this. I don't know what to give this week. The only good news that came from it seems, was the Avalanche finally got a win, right? That's kind of the big happy news. But it just seemed like for the entirety of, like, we were for sure gonna win something with Vegas, right? But just
Yeah.
they're giving it their 100%. Talking about the Avalanche, right? They're giving it 100%.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
They're just not getting over. They haven't got over that hump until obviously last night.
Yep. And that's what I mean. So we've had 3 games since we last talked, and it's been a roller coaster, like all the way to the deep depths. We said, we got to win this Vegas game because this is our moral win. We got to beat them. They're one of our problem teams, and we go out and we lose. And none of our losses have been in a fashion that was comfortable. It's not like we could sleep easy on it and say, but we can take this from this, and we can take this from this, because then we are like, okay, well, next we have Vancouver. We can redeem ourselves. They suck. They have the worst power play, I think, in the league. Or penalty kill, I suppose.
They're somewhere down there with penalty kill, yeah.
Yeah, And so then it's like, okay, well, we go out there and we drop a bomb. We're just blowing leads. We can't close out a period. We just have times where we just look like a shell of ourselves. I mean, we are literally playing just not like our team. And I know that we're a different team, but we simply don't look like the Avs, not the team that won the Stanley Cup less, 6 months ago. It's really been painful. And after that Vancouver game, I think a lot of people tapped that panic button, and then we got out last night, and I'm just so glad that we don't have to come into this podcast
oh, no kidding.
Because it's exhausting. I'm so sick and tired of talking about injuries. I'm sick and tired of saying the next game is going to be the springboard, blah, blah, blah. But I truly feel like this Edmonton game was the springboard. So I don't know if you want to start. We can just briefly cover the Vegas and Vancouver game, because I'm hoping that after this we can just flush them down and just.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. Okay, so the Vegas game, that one. So let me preface with saying this: all three of the games this week were winnable. And it seemed like your offense had progressed throughout the entirety of the week, which was great. Different obstacles to overcome for each week, but at least your offense was having that no quit attitude, right? That was something that we were hoping that we'd at least see, that instead of just trying to get by, trying to mistake free, they were at least going and getting after it, right? That was probably the best.
They say goal. We need this first goal. We need to come out fast. Matt comes out and scores a bomb goal like 30 seconds the game. So I'm like,
barely starts the game.
We have arrived. Mac is back. All is good. We're the Avs of last year. Like, let's freaking go.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
then
tell
us what happens.
No, you're good. So then kind of so end of the first period, we get a goal at the very beginning, they get a goal right toward the very end, and you're going 1-1, and you're like, okay, that's okay. You at least got a goal in the first period, right? So it's some kind of progress in some capacity. Well, and then Nik Raw decides to just ruin everyone's lives, scores 2 goals in the second period and holds us scoreless. So now you're down 3-1.
Yeah.
You're still thinking there's a shot, because those goals, it was like, that was really good offense on Vegas's part. That wasn't anything that I personally would hold against Georgiev or anything like that. But it still happened. One of them,
Brad high sticked in the face, loses another one of his 3 teeth left, it looked like. He's bleeding, bends down to pick the stick. I mean, it was a missed call, and that's one of those things totally out of our control. The poor guy, leave his 3 teeth alone. But you know what happens? And got burned. He just, I mean, you'd think that you would have time to bend down and pick up your stick, but you don't, especially when you're, playing how we are. So, I mean, a lot of it was totally out of.
Yep, I totally agree. Mikko Rantanen then in the third period gets the only goal of the third period, but at least you're set up. You're behind 1 goal, so when you pull Georgiev, you have the 6-on-5 for those 2 minutes, and it was kind of a letdown what those 2 minutes were. I was expecting a bit more from the offensive zone, getting in there, but at least they didn't get an empty netter and kind of put a damper on stuff. So you were there for the entirety of the game. This wasn't a blowout, you're done type situation,
right?
But at the same time, your losing streak went to 4, and you knew it's just gonna keep on eating at you, because it's just the more you lose, the more you get discouraged, right? And it just digs you a deeper hole. But the takeaways I got from the game were just that you at least played the game as hard as you could, right? Vegas is a fantastic team. In fact, just looking at the standings right now, they currently sit first in the Pacific with 56 points, right? 27-13-2 is the record. So they're one of the top teams in the league, right? And so just the fact that you were still in there, still giving it your all, full 60 minutes, that's something to at least hang your head high about. But and it brought forth just enough confidence, I thought, into the Vancouver game. And the Vancouver game, if I could summarize that into one movie title, it would be The Second Period from Hell. Just
Yeah, it
You
was
give your thoughts. I need to collect myself.
blowing a 2-goal lead, and like Jeff Merrick's big talk this season is that no lead is sacred or safe ever, and we are definitely out to prove that. We the 2-goal lead hurts because you're like, we get out there, we get the lead, and it just you can just feel the mental and physical fatigue throughout that game. And so we get that lead, which I don't know what happened, but Malgin goes out with an upper body injury. We're already running short on.
Go figure. That's about par for the course.
Yes, so we're short him, and then we're hitting. We are just, the story of the season is hitting posts, missing the net. We have just this brief breakdown. Taze gets a penalty, and then a little bit later, Cogliano goes to clear the puck, hits a ref, and goal, which the ref is not standing there, but it's part of the game, and it is something
I
that
know.
a seasoned veteran who is one, he's the locker room on the ice. He's supposed to be our locker room guy, loses his mind, apparently, gets himself a 10-minute misconduct, which doesn't affect us on the ice, but Cogliano is supposed to be our safe place at times like that. He is the guy that we go to. So when you see our level-headed corner grinder in the box for 10 minutes, it just seemed like everything turned. That leads directly to a goal.
I'd say directly to 3 if you think about it, because those suckers were almost all back to back to back.
Yeah, well, and box that leaves us down. We're down 9 forwards. We had scratched England to supposedly play McDermott on forward and then or on defense, but then McDermott like less than 3 minutes, I think, and played a little bit of forward. So I mean, our forward core was down so far as it was, and we end up with 2 horrific turnovers from 2 men to ever walk this earth. So it's demoralizing, and it just I've never seen them appear to be at such a mental low, which I'm guessing derived from a physical low. And after that turnover and a goal, we saw Georgiev essentially lose his cool, which is, he looks like the most level-headed goalie out there. That most goalies have it in them, because if they're an NHL goalie, there's clearly something, they're clearly some kind of crazy, but he was pissed. And it's hard to say. I don't believe that he was mad at his teammates.
It looked like he was more mad with himself.
Right. And that's just, you can be mad at literally everything that occurred up to that point. And I really am not concerned or angry at him for showing that emotion. I think something good. There's a fine line in being too calm and too cool and then just going straight Bennington. But I calm him down and talk to him and pep talk him. And I thought that was reassuring too, that they see their goalie. They know that it's their mistake. I've never seen such egregious turnovers. That's some straight up beer league stuff, like just dropping it for somebody to bring in point blank on your goalie and destroy them. I can't even recall those happening at any point, let alone within, a 2-minute time period from Makar and Taze. So that was a very, very low point, I think, for the Avs. The lowest that I've seen them since essentially our 48-point season, really.
No, I totally get you. And I'd agree 100%. It's just, if it gets to a point where Makar is going to Georgiev having to say these things aren't your fault, they're ours, right? That means that the Avalanche, the skaters, are not playing good.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to know, I sent a myriad of just angry texts to Britt about and I know you have a more level head about this because you actually play the game of hockey, unlike me, who's just nothing but an armchair player. But that referee, I wish, because this is not the first time this happened against the Avalanche this season. It happened. Oh gosh,
but
somewhere else. It might have been at the other Vancouver game. But I just feel like in this situation, if it hits the referee and the direct result of hitting the referee is a goal, it should be nullified, But at the same time, they're part of the ice. I get it, but it's just so frustrating because had that not happened, had we cleared that puck out of the zone,
Yep.
I don't think at least 2 of those 3 goals would have happened.
No.
In my honest opinion.
And then I'd be curious to know what exactly, if Cogliano was out there like dissing his mom or talking about something, because if you're gonna go out there and
nice guy, Andy, right?
then yeah, maybe you should probably be a little bit understanding if you get some chirping. So I'd really like to know what Cog said, or either maybe the ref's ego was just.
I don't know what he said, but I do 100% agree with Cogliano because you should have seen me if I were put on that neighborhood, because there was the neighborhood episode where they actually did an Avalanche watch, and I believe you made an appearance if I'm not mistaken. I was furious. Like if I were on that episode, you would see me throwing stuff at the TV. Like just so mad. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. You had a 2-goal lead. The first goal off the ref happens.
Right.
Okay. Whether you like it or not, whether
retaliatory penalty after he gets out of there 10 minutes, like, come on, dude. Like,
no,
come on.
Cogliano just lost it. But the following 2, it's just you crumbled. Second period was just terrible, to be completely honest. And then you had a chance to tie it toward the end. They get the empty netter, and that's it. The game's done, right? But at that point, it's just you have to mentally move on. That's what I had to do. At least I had to mentally just say, okay, it's done. Next game. That's just it.
Very capable of. So I feel like this was a dam breaking of some sort, or some kind of like hitting rock bottom, something. Mm-hmm. And I just thank God that we came out and that's what that game, there's just really not that much great to say about it. We scored our 1 of 5 penalties, I think. Sammy G scored a goal, which got super lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was screened by his own player. I mean, it was very lucky.
Yeah.
That was the Vegas game that we challenged. But I mean, it was just a really crappy game. And I think everybody hit the bottom there.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind, though, is, and Mark Rycroft actually brought this up during the broadcast. It just seems like it's always the Avalanche that make young, new goalies to the league, make them look elite. And that's just the thing. It's just like, well, we're not trying to, first of all, but
hit the net, because right after that, we had in the third period, we had like a 3-minute push where we weren't trying to score. We were trying to like murder the goalie. They shot it so freaking hard, but missed the net over and over and over. It was like
I remember Brad Hunt had like 4 or 5 just slap shots from like 6 feet out, but those things were rockets. Like that thing should have, if it stunned him in the face, that's a concussion. Like those things were freaking fast.
And it just seemed like they were channeling the anger, but it wasn't quite.
They weren't channeling it within 6 feet by 4 feet.
Yeah. If we're not at the post, we're just sailing wide of it, because but clearly something clicked. We came out against Edmonton and maybe played the most top to bottom game that we have in.
Yeah.
I mean, after losing that Vancouver game, that's 5 games. Like that's a lot of games to lose.
Yeah. And I think they said the statistic was the Avs hadn't had a 6-game losing streak since like 2018.
Yeah, that's
right.
Pretty rough.
Which is very impressive. But the score sheet, if you look at the game cast on ESPN, it'll say the Edmonton Oilers went up 2-0. And everyone listening is probably thinking, well, Britt and Nick, if that's the most complete game, explain. Well, I think, and I'll at least give my 2 cents onto, and I'd agree with you, Britt, a very complete game. It was, in my opinion, just pure stubbornness from the Avalanche. I think what got them back into the game, because they are saying, we're not losing 6. Like, there's no possible way we're going to lose this game. Because, and if you watch that game, any 5-on-5, the Avalanche had the upper hand, and it was night and day obvious.
And 5-on-5 play has been a very weak spot for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our play has also as of late, but
Yeah. And to answer Nathan's question here, so Edmonton they have been pretty good. They're just a couple points above the Avalanche right now. They're in the second wild card position, but they're a well put together team, you
right,
know.
freaky. They've got some serious goalie issues. They're paying about $10 billion for a goalie.
For a guy that doesn't even do do better than the rookie.
Yeah, it's a
You know
rough.
what I mean? But in all retrospect, Edmonton is a great team. They're about level with the Avalanche, but with them, they're a win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. That's kind of all they've been doing.
Super strong, and then they had a losing streak about as long. Didn't they lose like? I might be dramatic, but I think it was like 13 games in a row. So, or
It might be. Let's see if I can find that real fast.
Yeah, and it's I mean, they're definitely one Connor McDavid injury from being a lottery team. So
3-game losing streak, couple game losing streaks. They had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-game win streak toward the beginning of the season, but other than that, it's just been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
yeah,
And they just couldn't get out of their own way. It seems like for a lot of them, but in any sense,
they have Kane back. I mean, they're missing Kane, and Kane was a huge factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just abysmal, and it is unfortunate that Campbell is a good goalie, but there's something about when he gets on himself, man, he can't come out of it. And Toronto just ruins.
Right. And that was one thing that I was actually going to brush up on was when Georgiev in that Vancouver game. That was something that I was really worried about because we've talked about this in episodes past. He's one that is very hard on himself already, right?
Yep.
And that's one thing as far as a mental block.
Yeah.
If you just lift up the mental block, stuff like what happened in that Edmonton game happened. He played stellar, right? And the only goals he let in are because the Oilers have the number 1 power play in the league right now.
And
right?
got a buttload of penalties. Like, oh my God. That if anything,
oh my heck.
Like, stop getting penalties.
Let's see. How many penalties in total? I want to say we were up like 8, 9, somewhere around there. Let's see. Total penalties. It says 6. It felt more like 10.
Yeah, which is and so with 6, I just don't remember us getting this many penalties last year.
Yeah, it seemed like we were a lot more disciplined.
So fast, but you're going to have penalties when you have a lot of AHL players and slower players because they're doing the hooking and pulling and desperation moves. But yeah, you just can't give up penalties against that power play. Especially when you've got Brad Hunt and I don't know what it was so confusing to me that we were leaving like our lower D out when Edmonton line matches. So it just didn't. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. But sorry. Go ahead.
I thought that one thing that I found was interesting, and I would be curious to know what your thoughts were if that helped propel much, was the splitting of Rantanen and Mac.
I thought so, and I was actually going to bring this up, even if we won or lost in this game. It seems like your top line guys, what Bednar was doing was sandwiching them within the first line, basically, and usually it was Lehkonen, Rantanen, and McKinnon, right? I was going to see that might be the offensive change that you needed to make, was have just McKinnon on the top, Rantanen on the second, Lehkonen on the third. Divvy up the great ones into those who need some help getting back onto their feet as far as production is concerned. So they did that a little bit to the extent of moving Rantanen down. But obviously Rodriguez on the top line, so it's like, push goes to shove. But I think that did play dividends toward the end, because then, positions themselves, the lines aren't exactly, it's always first, always second, always third, and stuff like that. But I think got enough of a healthy mix with the depth players versus the starting players that the Avalanche 5-on-5 was as good as it was.
Yeah.
Right? So I would attribute a good chunk of that to that line move.
Especially with this year, Rantanen has.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, it's breaking up a little bit. But this year, just Rantanen has taken his play to a new level, and I think that it's easier to trust him to lead a whole line himself at this point. He's proven that he can carry a lot more on his shoulders than he used to. We don't see him disappearing going down into the second line, so I'm curious if that kind of goes into play now that he's proven that he is much more of a leader than just needing to be on Mac's side the whole time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's just it. He's otherworldly right now, like you said, and so having that kind of radiate throughout the rest of whatever line he's on and below, because you never know who he can be paired with at the ice at one time, that's got to, I think, attribute to a lot more of his presence, right? And the ability that presence can change people, right? In fact, like you got Brad Hunt to score that goal.
God.
I don't know if that's necessarily because of Rantanen or anything, but you got a depth player to score.
Yes.
And of all people, Brad Hunt. You know what I mean? Like it was amazing.
It was such a good goal, and that's what you're watching, and you're like, okay, the puck just kind of seemed to be going out no man's land and didn't seem like anybody was going to aggressive. And then Brad Hunt comes flying, and swag. He has no grace, and oh my God, that was beautiful. And it's so, has been, we need the depth. And I pray to God that I'm right, but in my heart, I feel like we're going to come back to this goal and feel like that was a turning point.
That was a pivotal moment.
Yes. And it came from Brad Hunt.
the once Edmonton Oiler last season gets the goal against his former team.
Yes.
But that's just it. So what's funny, and I think so after the second period, I actually shut off the TV. Right. And I didn't watch any of the third period because I was mad, right? So because and I did end up rewatching that third period just to see how stuff played and stuff like that. But the one thing that I figured, I thought, okay, so we're losing games because I'm watching them. You know what I mean? Like it's my fault entirely that the Avalanche are on this losing streak. And then come to see that I hop on to the MHRT network, and there you three are watching it on the neighborhood from on the other channel on the network. And I'm like, okay, maybe they'll be good luck. This is going to be great. So I kept that on, and I'm just like, I'm rage cleaning the house, right? And I'm keeping tabs on the game because even though I'm like mad and throwing a fit, because I'm a child when it comes to these types of things. I was thinking for sure 6 games losing streak was going to happen. I see that we scored a goal, and I go and watch the highlight of the goal. I'm like, okay, yeah, at least we didn't let Skinner have a shutout, Then Brad Hunt gets a goal. And now I'm like, okay, I'm back. So I'm just like, I don't want to be disappointed. So I stayed off of watching it until the end of the third period and the beginning of overtime, because I'm like, I just know if I turn that TV back on in the third period, the Oilers are somehow going to get a rinky dinky goal and we're going to lose, and it's going to be my fault. So I waited until overtime happened. And so I had the neighborhood on one side, and I had just the game on the TV. And as soon as that overtime happened, I'm like, it seems like we actually, because it's even play again, right? And I'm like, it seems like we actually have the right amount of tools to be able to go and win this game, right? This is the best you're going to get. And who be it better than Cale Makar, assisted by McKinnon and a one Alexander Georgiev, might I add.
Love it.
That just a really dirty wrister, and it gets past Skinner. You win the game. Oh my gosh! Now, real quick, if you haven't watched the episode of The Neighborhood yet, go and watch that, because and specifically the little 2-minute segment where Mike and Bill freak out when they win the game. I want to find, and Mike and Bill, if you're watching, get me a clip of that celebration, because that was liquid gold. I wish I was on that because I would have also been doing the same thing and it would have added to the chaos. But oh my gosh. Anyway, so that being aside, joy just fills the rafters. It felt like we won the Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? Because it's just like 6 games, it would just look so bad on your season resume. I mean, it's already bad enough with 5.
Right.
But just to get a win, the
bad.
confidence comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yep. And the confidence just comes back, and you're just like, we've proved now that we can come from behind to win a game in a period or well, in this case, a period plus overtime, but
yeah,
there were a couple crossbars that they could have won the game. But you've proven that you can score that many goals in one period. That comes, confidence, all that kind of stuff comes shooting back. I don't know. That was my reaction to the game, Brittini. I don't know if you had a different one, but it was just a breath of fresh air.
Frankly, I appreciate a comeback at this point more than seeing them get ahead and lock it down, because a comeback is, in my mind, a lot harder, and it's something that we were lacking perseverance at this point. And I keep hearing the word apathy, and I don't think that these guys are apathetic at all. I don't think any of them even have it in them, but I think that they've gotten to a point at times where they've felt defeated with the tools that we have on the ice when they're trying to win games with mostly AHL players.
Mm-hmm.
I think that defeated is more appropriate than apathy, and seeing them finish out that game, especially against Edmonton. We haven't seen them since the Stanley Cup playoffs. Edmonton they've had this game against us marked on their calendars, freaking Saturday night hockey in Canada. I mean, this is a game, and they wanted it a lot, probably even more than we needed it, just for that moral, get out of our slump. They want to beat us and prove that come, the Western Conference Finals again is going to be a different story, but it's, we can do it even without, our superstars. And the thing that was so, even beyond just the win, so we got back Rodriguez, which Rodriguez, okay, so this guy that we picked up past like all of the big flurry of free agent signings, and $2 million. And this is a guy now who is, in my mindset, essentially become part of our core. And at this point, I see it as a not optional re-signing. I see him as somebody that's going to be
a must.
But and all that said, I literally thank Jesus for him at night. But he is a $2 million guy that we didn't even know if he would be sufficient for a second line center spot. Having him come back and changing our game that much.
It's night and day.
Out Nuke and Landy and Byram, think of the exponential just goodness that's going to come from just when I literally am getting goosebumps right now thinking about Landeskog coming back. And that just shows there's so much more hope. And so if we can win games as we are right now, and that whatever Rodriguez has probably still bugging him, we probably got a lot of little injuries. Georgie's played 700 games in a row. If you look at our time on ice, so I've got it down here. So I think it was Peter Baugh that posted it. It's astounding to see. So time on ice for Toronto, Vegas, Vancouver, you've got Mac at 22-20, 27 minutes, 25 minutes, almost 26 minutes. Rance, our top 5 guys, McCarr, Taze, Fleck, Rance, they are putting in so many minutes, and just adding more forwards to the mix. The guys that we have here are only going to get so much better when they don't have to be on the ice literally playing half the game. There was this super interesting conversation. I believe it was on the Mile High Pod. They were talking about, so Rantanen has played, and I just cannot for the life of me remember the numbers exactly, but it was something like Rantanen has played 308 games before this season, and he's played 36 games this season. And of those 36 games, 10 of them, oh man, it may have even been 20, but it's a pretty big number, have been over. He's played over 25 minutes. I'll have to, but it's something, and it's, and none of those were in the first 10 games. So basically, in the last 26 games prior to this season, how many games do you think he's had over 25 minutes in the 308?
I would honestly just guess a handful. Yeah.
3. So, I
Not
mean,
a ton.
such an unusual like amount of time to be playing these people. It's so not in the norm, and it's clearly not ideal. And that's what I
Yeah.
sometimes am confused by Bednar's decisions with why do we have McDermott and just not even having Foodie up and just being a warm body to go out there and just kill some minutes simply so
Mhm.
and Taze and Lekanen, Ranton, and Mac are us. I don't know, but I just feel like good times are coming. They have to be.
Yeah.
Suppose though, Bo has, I heard high ankle sprain at some point, but he had some issue and it was supposed to be a month. Well, whatever treatment he was doing wasn't working. So essentially, when they came out and said that they started this new treatment, that was essentially day 1 of treatment because he's now responding, which
Oh my gosh.
responding is to I don't know. But so we've got Bo on an actual track to come back. Manson is currently traveling with the team. Is that right?
I don't think he traveled.
No.
So that 2-game little stint, they said that it was going to be Nichushkin and Rodriguez that would travel with the team. Well, Nichushkin ended up not traveling with the team, and then
Oh,
Rodriguez comes back the second half of that leg. But I
it,
know that they're skating. What was
okay.
that?
Frankie is with him too, right? Because
Ooh, I
it's
don't know.
I
I haven't heard anything about Francouz actually, so I couldn't tell you.
think he's soon, and it's just like I feel like they were avoiding putting JoJo in, and it may have been by the request of Georgiev, and I don't know if they wanted to keep Georgiev in until he got that big win that felt good.
Yeah.
It's hard to end on a bad note as a goalie, so
Oh
maybe
yeah.
let him get that big win. So hopefully with the next game, our schedule coming up is pretty lax. No easy wins, blah blah blah, but it's not freaking Toronto, Vegas, Edmonton. It's hopefully time that they feel comfortable putting JoJo in because JoJo played playoff games with us, didn't he? Wasn't he part of the Hutchison?
Oh, he might have been all the back in the bubble, right?
I think we got all
Oh,
4th string because
I
I think
don't know.
he got hurt, but I I think that JoJo is serviceable enough that hopefully we can just let Frank or Georgiev take a break on a good note because I think he is intense enough that he would really struggle to like end on a Vancouver kind of note or a Vegas kind of note.
Hmm.
Look, Vancouver, there was 4 goals, but basically he let in 3. They had 43 shots, so he's rocking far over 90% save average, even on some of our
Yeah.
most brutal wins. It's puck luck has not been our friend. Last night we finally got a bit of it. We had some like that call on Newhook. Like, are you just not allowed to?
There were a few calls, like a couple of trips. There was even a boarding call that was missed that at least in my opinion,
Yeah,
and I don't know. It just seemed like in the last few games with these losing streak, there were some calls that could have been pretty crucial,
yeah.
to maybe flip the tables around.
Thing, but even like last night, we challenged that goal, and who ever knows what's a goalie interference, right? Because the refs don't. It varies constantly and wildly. But the
I
thing,
personally think it was myself, but
I would imagine that they made that challenge with it in mind, considering the precedent set just during that game. That clearly goalie interference is not going to be tolerated, and it's a
and
totally
they let it slide. Because
yep,
if you watch the replay, Zach Hyman's stick it's perpendicular to Georgiev's
yeah,
pad and pushing it.
right.
Now,
And
whether the puck was because the way the ref worded it when they said the puck completely crossed the goal line, that wasn't the challenge. It's
because
like, yeah,
it was being to where he couldn't.
because here's the thing. It's like here's the unknown, and why, in my opinion, you should have called it back because with that pad being pushed, you don't know what that puck would have ended up doing if its trajectory would have changed. Because as it sits, yeah, the trajectory he never had a hold of it, and it's just kind of sliding between his legs and into the back of the net.
Or he
But
could,
had he not been pushed, would that have been enough to maybe get just a piece of the puck and steer it another direction?
yeah.
That's why, in my opinion, that call should have been a goaltender interference and the goal taken away. But at the same time, that's part of the game. I don't personally like the call.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and the Avalanche showed, you can recover from even bad calls.
Yeah.
Right.
For
And
sure.
I agree with you on that. And I want to jump back to those minutes before we get into the weekly look ahead. I think as more people come back, and we've seen this now, as from when we were at the lowest to lows with our injuries, that the minutes they're going to rebalance themselves, which I think gives the top dogs more of a breather.
Yeah.
Right. They'll have more time to sit on the bench, get kind of, re-energized, whatever needs to happen to get back out on for their shift. And I think you'll begin to see the wheels begin to turn even better this time. The only thing, though, it's like you wish it happens faster. People get back from their injuries faster, because that was the thing. Like when they had the healthy team at the beginning of the season, with the exception of Helm and Landeskog, it seemed like that was just an unstoppable train, just to carry over from last season. So once you get that back and all the cogs start to turn at the same time, I think we're going to see just win after win after win after win. But first things first, you have to take things game by game, right? So that being said, let's jump into the weekly look ahead. I've pouted too much for 40 minutes, so I'm
No, honestly, I'm feeling the best that I have in quite some time. That
yeah,
it definitely felt less than the hopelessness that we felt after that Vancouver game. That was a low, but I think
no, I get you. It was the elation. Britt, if I could paint a picture for what the scene was in my living room, there would have been party streamers, balloons, everyone screaming surprise. It was a joyous occasion in the
yeah,
Bichsel household. Let's just put it that way. So you have a win in your back pocket. You are on a 1-game winning streak. Yes. Let's make that 5, as we have
yeah,
4 games that we're going to look for this week. And the reason I say 4 is because even though there's a game on Monday that falls on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so they'll play that. And as it's it's a national holiday, they're going to play that at 1 in the afternoon.
yeah.
And our episode will air at 6. So we're just going to include the Detroit game, and just as part of this week. And then obviously we'll either be really happy or really sad during that episode. So first things first, Florida, they're going to come in 7:30 start time on Tuesday. Florida, I don't really know what to cut them out as.
No,
They're
I don't.
kind of just who knows what's happening with that team right now. They got Kachuk, so you'd think they'd be a better team, but Huberdeau left,
Yeah,
and it's an oddball, What's that?
Bob's been sucking.
Yeah, so I don't, but at the same time, they turn things around
Right.
so well. So that's just it. I don't know what to describe of how their season's going versus what's going to happen versus the Avalanche, but I do know this much, and the 3 keys to the game for Florida. Number 1, momentum off a win. Don't kill the momentum. There's nothing else I can say. You are coming off of a win. Don't lose it.
Yeah.
Just super simple. Key number 2, power play under construction. Even though the offense they're giving it their all, they're doing wonderful, we are still not taking advantage of any power play that we're given. And we're given a good handful of them every game. And it's just what we're like 1 for the last 10, like or 2 for the last 10. Not great. There was a time before the large injury stint, we were number 1 in the league. We've dropped to 8th
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
power play.
It might be worse after, because we 0-5, 1-5. It's not good.
Yeah, not the best. So if it's under construction, it's under construction. But at the same time, you have essentially your first power play intact fully. That
Yeah.
thing should be chipping away at a high clip, goal after goal after goal. The entries are actually not that bad. It's what you're doing after the entries that's really killing you. And in my opinion, they're just waiting for the right shots. But the defenses have caught on that McKinnon likes to set
Yeah.
up left side, and they'll kind of wade away. Once that pass goes, they will rush him. 2 guys, they'll
Yeah.
rush him and back the other 2 toward the net for any rebound that comes.
Yeah.
So they've started to catch on. So you have to make pass, just pass, boom, shot, instead of just saying, hey, I'm passing to Nate. There it is. Don't let him predict what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
We definitely need to shake it up a little bit.
Exactly. The dump pass, the drop back pass that goes to Nate or New Hook or whoever's taking it in, it's been okay, just because as he's pulling in with a head of steam, he'll either make a cut left or a cut right, and your defenseman is going to trail behind that. But after that, after you're set up, make stuff quick.
Yeah.
Right. Just make it quick. And that's what Edmonton does. And that's why they're so good. When I watch those power play goals, it's like, what do? Tyson Barrie, the man, the myth, the legend, and Avalanche legend, in my opinion, he quarterbacks that power play like nobody else. Yeah. He does such a good job of getting that set up and stuff like that. And then you have McKinnon and Draisaitl. How are you going to defend those two at the same time? So just kind of take a page out of that book. But in either sense, go ahead, just make it unpredictable.
Yeah.
Into the story.
Well, if Florida games are anything, it's unpredictable. They are the cursed game. So we'll see how that goes if we make it a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, power plays, it's going to be huge in every game. But we've got to start fresh and really get that power play going, because it's sustainable.
Yeah, that was at a point I remember when during the beginning of the season, anytime you were on a power play, you were just like, sweet, automatic goal, like +1 for the good guys.
We need Nichushkin back badly.
Yeah. And I can't wait for Landeskog to come back and park himself right in front of the goalie. No. Those tip shots are going to be a thing of beauty when he comes back.
Yep.
So, but hopefully it's fast recovery, faster, the sooner the better. All right, last key in the Florida game is down but never out. We just proved that we can come back to the Edmonton Oilers down 2 in a period and 2-3 minutes. That we can't use anything as an excuse now. Right? If you're down 2, who's to say you can't come back from a 3 in 2 periods?
Yeah.
Right? I recall there was the game last season against the Winnipeg Jets where at the end of 1, we were losing 3-0. And even into the second period, 3-0, right? We came back and won that game in regulation, 6-3.
Yeah, I remember that game.
It was, and that was a game that's like, you can do anything. You were on cloud 9, right?
Touchdown. We're due to just beat the living crap out of somebody, and I don't.
Once that happens, I think a win streak of 5, 6, 7 games is in hand. Yep. And this could be one of those weeks to do it. If you hang a good number on it, then and that's another thing for any of these games. I feel like if we get to 4 goals, whether we win or lose, that's a win for me. I am sick of these 3-goal games of either you win or lose, and you can't get that 4th goal. It's just been forever.
If you score 4, we're usually going to win. I mean, there's just not very that George is going to, no matter how many shots there are, because Frank performs better when he's taking 50 shots a game. It's these like 30-shot up and down games that seem to kill him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just it. It's like you need to make him comfortable with how he's playing in regulation. And in order to do that, that offense needs to step up. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, moving into the Blackhawks game, this is one, if you want to hang a touchdown.
Yeah, speaking of touchdowns,
this is the game to do it. These guys are, I think, number 1 in the Bedard race. But they're hurting, but at the same time, surprises happen. We know this from the Arizona game. Right?
Yeah, Kane is hurt right now. I don't know if he'll still be out by then, but
yeah. So we're at Chicago on Thursday the 12th, 6:30 puck drop time, Mountain Time. The 3 keys of the game I have for this are regulation win, please. I cannot tell you how long it has been since, well, I can tell you how long it's been since a regulation win. That would have been the 17th of December against Nashville. That was a 3-1 game.
Wow.
That's almost a month
Yeah. Oh my.
since you've won in regulation. Please get a regulation win.
Yeah. Wow.
I just there's nothing else to say about that other than if you do, no extra game has to be played, no extra skate time to make them more tired.
I was gonna say because we just need so much extra ice time at this point for
I
the on ice.
yeah, that's exactly what we needed.
Oh,
That's our New Year's resolution: more ice time, more work for the boys. Second key to the game: zone entries and exits. On the power play, like I said, it's been okay, and it's worked, but it just seems like, and this was a problem with the Edmonton and especially the Vancouver game during that second period, we could not do anything to get the puck, thanks to some referees on the Vancouver game, out of the defensive zone to kill whatever large swing momentum they might have, and vice versa. Whenever we had momentum offensively, like I remember there was in the Edmonton game, there was a time where we had the puck for a straight, I think, 4 minutes in our offensive zone, firing shot after shot after shot to
yeah.
Skinner. He was making great saves, don't get me wrong, but just the fact that you're just like, okay, this is it. Like, you have the confidence that you'll score. That's what I want back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That like powerful puck possession is just hard to even remember last year when it felt like we were always in control of everything all the time. And now it's hard to watch when we're not, which is a totally entitled, spoiled kind of mentality, but it's a definitely different game where we're not controlling it all, really.
Yep. And it's just kind of piggybacking off of that. When we have the control of the puck for the game, 9 times out of 10 we win. And
Yeah.
we have noticed in the last however many games up into this Edmonton game, you lost control. If you had the puck possession control, they lost it throughout the game or never had it to begin with.
Yeah.
Start the first few minutes strong, because that's one thing I've also noticed. There would seem to be a little correlation between who took the first shot in the game and who won the game for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So win the opening face-off, get stuff ready to go, and have at it. Play at a fast pace, play at your pace, but puck possession. I think you're absolutely right. The last key to the game for the Blackhawks game is every game matters. It's to a point right now where the Avalanche can't really afford to lose or have any of these streaks again, because right now we're outside of the playoff picture looking in.
Yep.
And that's a scary thing to be at headed toward the All-Star break, because there's not many games after that you have in order to get yourself into a good position.
Right.
I don't want it to get to this place where every up into the very last regular season game is going to matter.
Have to win to make it.
Yeah.
We need to be to a point where we can coast a little bit and take some time to reassess, because we're going to have basically a whole new period of having to put our team back together past the halfway point of the season. So we need some time to coast a little bit and experiment before going into the playoffs, but we have to be in a position to make the playoffs to even care.
Exactly.
So I don't see where we have to win this many games and the team has to lose this game. I don't want to live that life again.
I don't want to play a numbers game either. I absolutely agree. I want to get it to where you have job security in the postseason, and it's just, you at least know you're guaranteed a spot. As soon as I see a little checkbox next to the Avalanche on ESPN standings, I will be like, okay, now we can regroup. Kind of like what happened in the last 8-10 games of the season last year. It's like you had the West locked up, and they just went on a losing streak beyond belief, but it was at least enough to let them breathe, stuff like that. But right now, you have to get yourself back into that. This 5-game losing streak doesn't help. Yeah, and a team like the Blackhawks,
important at this point.
Exactly. Even if it's the Blackhawks, you need to go and win that game. This is not one you can afford to lose. Anything that's less than you as far as standings is concerned should be a win game, like must win, I guess is what I should say. So every game matters. That's the last key to the game in the Blackhawks series there. And let's see, next team here is the Senators, and that's a home game, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday. Yep, 5 o'clock puck drop Mountain Time. Ottawa, not as productive and good as I thought they'd be this season. I remember at our beginning of season talk, we were talking and just lauding the Senators for the fact that they had Giroux, DeBrincat, Batherson, all these guys, and it just seems like it hasn't panned out for them right now.
Yeah, they're gonna, in fact, I think that they're gonna be bomb if they continue to do things right, but they're definitely on a cusp of something, but they're not quite there yet. But they're fun to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, one of Ali's favorite players is Tim Stützle, and for good reason, right? The guy's amazing to play. I think he netted himself a hat trick as well recently, and this time they actually got to throw the hats onto the ice instead of into his backyard like he did a couple seasons ago. But this team, they are a must-win game because that's one. If you want to start your streak, beating Florida, another staple game, and then Chicago Senators, that's a really good way to swing the momentum and shift that pendulum back in the Avalanche's favor. Look at there. See, told you, Ali. Loves Tim Stützle. Key to the game number 1 for the Senators game. There's a potentially potent offense when it comes to the Senators. And that's exactly what you and I were talking about, is they're right there on the cusp.
Yeah.
Right. And there are those occasions of greatness where it spills over and it's just an unwinnable game because their offensive potence is just through the roof.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that. Maintain that at a low, right? It's a home game. You should have the crowd behind you. But keep any kind of momentum on that offensive potency to a low.
Yeah. Yeah, they're I'm breaking it.
No, you're good.
We just got to shut them down, and that's what Allie's down here. I can't click on her comment to put it up, but with the power play, that's exactly what we said for Edmonton too, and we have got to control the.
I think Brittini might have hit the wrong button. It's a little weird on the mobile. She's on her phone. She's having some internet problems, but sometimes you accidentally hit the close button. But she'll come back and join us. But just back to Ali's comment here, my wife's comment. She says that the Ottawa's power play is fire. And the Avs need to be careful to play clean. And I think that's what Brittini was going to talk about. There she is.
I am just the queen of technical difficulties. I'm about to go buy myself a studio. There's actually a place across the street from my shop that you can record podcasts on, and at some point,
is that right?
Might be. Yeah, it's a music studio too. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. All right, so you were talking about this comment. Are you with us?
Yeah, we
She might be frozen. Anybody else on the comments? Could you mark this? Is her screen frozen? Does anybody else see this, or am I also am I going crazy? Yeah, I think her screen's frozen. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost her again. Yeah, it says, so Ali says frozen, Cougar says frozen. Okay. Let's see if we can get her to come back in on her phone. That one looked like it was her laptop maybe, but I'm not sure. When she comes back, we will have her finish that comment. But once let's get back onto the track here. I know we're kind of going over some time here. Second key to the Ottawa Senators game: never count out the fourth line. And we saw this in Edmonton with Brad Hunt scores a goal. Sam Girard had a goal a couple games ago. I mean, the guy was doing great, right? This is something that we need to make sure that the fourth line is producing. We can't always rely on our first line. We can't always rely on our second line. These third and fourth liners, defense and offense combined, they have to begin to produce. They have to show up. They have to at least give some kind of lifeline when those when those first and second lines aren't producing the way that you want them to. So that being said, never count out the fourth line. Tell us more about Giroux here. Oh, there we go.
About Giroux here.
Hi, Britt.
Oh, there we go. Hi, Britt.
Hello, can you see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's been a joy of ring around the electronics.
Okay, we're going to answer this question once and for all. There have been a lot of people asking about this one, and they also want to get your thoughts on Giroux. So,
yeah, as I'm saying, for like, I don't even know at what point I've been cut off here, but we've got to control the stupid penalties. I don't remember this ever being such an issue, which a lot of it is deriving from undisciplined players and tired players. So essentially, I think a lot of these things will come back together naturally without having to specifically address them, simply by having more players on the ice and more tenured players. But for this game in particular, we're not going to have anyone else back, I don't think. And even if it's Manson, then that doesn't help our stupid penalty problem.
It might make it worse.
Yeah. But we've got to control those penalties against them, and that's really all there is. And then Giroux is such a. I mean, the biggest thing I can say about him is I'm glad that we didn't pick him up. That's my big thing, is I'm glad he's not our old problem now.
Yeah, he's and that's just it. He's an Ottawa native, well, or just outside Ottawa, but another, for all context, Ottawa is about the area he's from, so he's home technically. I don't know what else to say other than it feels like, and this might not come across as really good to some people's ears, but it seems like he's playing like more happy in Ottawa. And that's not to say that he wasn't happy in Philadelphia. And I know he had a great time there and stuff like that, but it just seems like he's playing for the team that he loved as a child. You know what I mean? He kind of is fulfilling that lifelong dream. But and that's it. And that's the thing. He's the same Claude Giroux yesterday, today, and the rest of his NHL career. Right. So keep an eye on him as well, because when he's on fire, he's on fire, and that goes with Stützle. Yeah, and that can go with Stützle, that can go with Batherson, that can go with DeBrincat. A lot of those players, where if they have a game, they have a game. Yeah. It's no quiet night that they secretly put together a 4-point game. It's loud anytime.
They can pop off.
They really can. So.
And that's just it, Allie.
I can't imagine being happy in Philadelphia.
And he doesn't have to deal with Flyers fans. So who wouldn't be happier just being
Allie, just for that comment, I know I'm going to get a couple of text messages from a certain couple of people. Not going to be too thrilled about that, but in either sense, though, and there it is. Take it back. This is my friend Cougar. Loves Philadelphia. Him and his wife spent some time there together, and so they're diehard Philly Flyers fans. But so Josie and Cougar, if you guys are listening to this is all Allie's comments. I was trying to be nice about it.
We don't endorse the comment section.
Yeah, this is all Allie. This is you take it up with her, not with me. So moving on. So you probably missed in the second key of the Senators game. It just never count out the fourth line, and in this case, the fourth line, they had moments of greatness. And I mentioned Brad Hunt. I mentioned Sam Girard, even though he's third line for defense, or second maybe. But just don't count him out in any game. Brad Hunt right now, and even Malgin, even though he's not necessarily fourth line all the time, those guys are showing just amazing energy. And it finally paid dividends for Brad Hunt. It's just a matter of time for Malgin if he comes back healthy.
I'm curious, is he going to be back? Do we know what his injury was?
I don't know, but I have a bruised ego because of it. I'm not sure. But whenever he comes back, he was this close a lot of the time.
That
Right.
sounds like that's about his career in a nutshell.
I know. It's sad, but you just
Is one of these.
if I hope it's one of those Nichushkin situations where
We can help him put it together.
we can help him achieve a 6x6 contract. You know what I mean?
It would nice. It
That would
sounds
be
got the tools for sure.
he absolutely does, and he plays really well with McKinnon. To be
Yep.
completely honest with you, that guy is like the Stockton to the Malone for
Yep.
those who are listening and your Jazz fans. But it's just they work really well together. One assisting the other, one giving them the puck and stuff like that. It's good stuff. But if there's a time for that fourth line to step up, and Comfort had that, lost it for a bit. We want him to get that back. This is a stretch in order to do that, and hopefully they maintain that throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say the games are going to be easy, and we know, no game is going to be easy. But if there was a time that we could seriously get some good confidence, this is it. To pull some goals from our ass on every line would be really nice, because I think everybody needs a little ego boost right now.
Yep, I absolutely agree. You said ego boost, right? I thought you said eco boost. Like I was thinking, all right, we're talking cars now. I mean, even an eco boost would be great. Get some more diesel into those skates, man. That'd be great. Okay, so third key of the game for the Senators, and then we'll wrap it up real quick with the Red Wings. Sense of urgency all the time, full 60 minutes, and excuse me, play that kind of. I don't want to call it play from behind mentality, because that ends up kind of being more of a downer than it is a motivator. But just play with that urgency like they had throughout all the playoffs last year.
Yeah,
that's why they swept Nashville. It's why they swept Edmonton.
Yeah.
They finally got over the hump against St. Louis.
Yeah, getting those 6-7 point games is because we just never took the foot off the throat.
Exactly.
I mean, we need to get back there, because that was our livelihood last year. Was everybody said they come, and then they just keep coming and coming and coming and coming, and never
speed was
to breathe.
I would sometimes, whenever I'd log on to watch the Avalanche game, if it was an away game, it always goes to the home broadcasts stream first, right? And so I just sometimes want to hear what they had to say, and that was just it last season. They always said how fast the Avalanche were, how they just are relentless, nonstop, all that kind of stuff. Bring that back.
Yeah,
right?
And that's where we need to get back to. We need to be able to roll 4 lines. I mean, at least like 3.
Oh yeah,
we're basically running on 2 lines at this point for top and bottom defense. I mean, part of that is staying fresh throughout the game. I mean, it's one of those things that's just going to come together, hopefully.
Yep, and I'm sure it will. But we need a certain Gabe Landeskog to come back, and everything will all be better. Everything will be fixed. But anyway, sense of urgency. Third key to the Senators game. Down to the Red Wings now. I believe that's another home game. So it's 3 out of 4 are home games. That's going to be on Martin Luther King Day at 1 p.m. Puck drop time. So this is an early game. So we'll for next week either be really happy or really upset given the events of it. But the keys to the game for this particular team. This one is kind of also an Ottawa Senators game where they had a lot of hype. They really won the offseason, in my opinion. But the biggest thing with that, though, is they're still good, but I thought they would be elite tier. They're kind of like how I thought Jersey would be.
They're working. They're not quite there yet, but they've got a future, but they got a lot of stuff to navigate right now.
Yeah, exactly. So again, not as good as I thought they'd be, but I think they have almost an identical record of the Senators. I know they have the same points. Okay, a couple overtime losses difference, but mostly the same. So they're kind of in that same realm with Ottawa.
Yeah.
Again, they could burn you though in any given day.
Right.
And it seems like that's kind of the motive for everyone playing the Avalanche is these guys are the Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah.
Give it their best, and they always do. So expect it, right?
Yeah, the team is young, so they've got feet for days. I mean, they're very young.
Yeah. So key to the game number 1 is if it's Ville Husso, give him nightmares.
Yeah.
I want them to remember what happened in game 6 of the second round, right? It was Husso
Yep.
that was that, and I didn't like, it's not his fault. It was a good shot by Helm, and it just one of those blind ones that you couldn't see. But let him remember what happened, and if he kind of goes into his shell, that's the time to pounce, right?
Yeah.
That's the time to really, really go after it. And just kind of make him see ghosts out there, to have a Sam Darnold reference for you. But give Husso nightmares is my first key.
Sorry, just fixing my thing here.
Yeah, you're all right. Do you want me to go into the second keys, or do you want to add on top of that?
No, I totally agree with that. Like, it's they don't like scare me, but I don't think we should write them off at all.
Yeah. Yep, totally agree. Second key to the game, and I only had 2 keys because this particular key is kind of a two-parter. The first one is don't play dirty like Perron.
Yeah. Oh, man, I
and
forgot about him even.
Yeah, so don't play dirty like Perron. Play clean like the rest of the team. So, yeah, no, but in all seriousness though, and you even touched about that on that one comment that Allie had earlier. Clean up your act, man. Don't send Detroit, don't send any of these teams to the penalty box more than you can afford.
Yeah.
Because right now and I understand it's based off how the ref looks at it and stuff like that, but don't even get yourself in that situation to begin with. Play hard, play physical, but play smart. You know what I mean? Don't be a Perron going after Kadri last season where it's just he couldn't control himself, and so he threw an errant punch, got 2 minutes plus another 2 for, I think it was a roughing and then a checking call, so double minor, and that ended up hurting them down toward the line. But just a clean, penalty-free, mistake-free game would be amazing to have right now.
Yeah, control what you can control, at least.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So those are the 3 games that I have for the Red Wings. An afternoon game should be fun. Hopefully those who have the day off get the chance to just sit down for a nice afternoon game of Colorado Avalanche hockey. And again, looking at the week, all of these games are winnable. And I know I've said that week after week after week, and it's true. Yeah. But it just seems like now with this win, you got over that hump. It seems like you should be able to now just go through it. Right. That's the hope, is you just go through the week and your winning streak is up to 5 by the next time we talk.
I mean, feels like definitely the easiest stretch we've had since the beginning of December, when we truly hit our low point in injuries. So I would hope that we can come out of this. I don't want to look for 500 anymore. I expect better than 500.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Hopefully, again, that puts us in a great position to at least get back into the playoff picture. We keep that momentum up through the All-Star game, through everything. But and don't forget, speaking of, vote in Avalanche players to the All-Star game. Cale Makar's already in. He was the one put in first.
Do we even want them to go? That's what with
at this point, who knows?
Just stay home and relax.
Do what Ovechkin does. I think he purposely says, "No, I'm good," and then just takes the 1 game suspension. But it's a risk of injury that maybe you don't want to have. But in either sense, I still think it'd be fun to see at least 2 Avalanche players there. So if you can, vote for them.
Yeah, I mean, Mikko deserves. I mean,
he does.
He deserves the whole
just looking at the team's stats, I was actually going to bring this up just a couple seconds ago. But looking at the team's stats, it's pretty impressive to see the goal differential between Mikko Rantanen and the rest of the team. 26 goals.
10 goals, and no one else hit 10
26 goals for Mikko Rantanen. The next highest one are McKinnon and Makar with 10.
That's crazy.
And that was because of yesterday's game.
Yeah, Matt hit and that's
excuse me. Rantanen
kind of sad.
Lehkonen and Rodriguez have 9, so they'll probably hit the 10 threshold. Comfer, Nichushkin, Newhook have 7. I think they'll hit the 10 threshold.
Yeah.
But it's like Mikko is having an ungodly amazing year. Yeah. He deserves an all-star vote. So I really recommend you go and vote for him. get him into the All-Star game. That being said, I think that wraps up this episode this week. Britt, do you have any other final comments?
No, I don't think so. Ali asked about voting McDermott in. That would make my whole freaking life. I would just love to see McDermott there. I love me some McDermott, not necessarily always on the ice, but occasionally. I like when he I just like the guy.
I just like it when he bodies a guy into the boards. That's like when it's funny when you see him just set his sights on a guy. I don't watch the puck. I watch him because I'm just like, oh, this is going to be good.
Video of him falling with the cup. I fell in love with him. The guy basically breaks his back but doesn't drop the cup. I'm like, what a
pretty
guy!
Amazing. It's like the guy was hammered beyond belief, but he kept that cup. That was he knew priorities.
Crush him. It's just insane. And yeah, Glenn, we'll have to. I'll hop on with you guys next time. I didn't even know I would be home for the game and that you guys were doing it. So I jumped in there quick. But yeah, we'll definitely have to hop on next time that we're available.
I absolutely agree. Just watching that was so much fun. So hopefully that's something that we keep through in the off season for the Broncos and stuff like that. But again, thank you everyone for sticking with us for this hour 15 that we've done and giving us your support for the Cluster Puck podcast. Britt and I really do appreciate it. This is so much fun to do week in and week out. We love talking Avalanche hockey. So if you like what you saw, please go and subscribe to the MHRT network. The rest of the shows on the network are fantastic. I'm looking really forward to the Broncos breakdown with Bill on Friday because he was animated during that the neighborhood game. Can't wait to see him. But you have 5280, you have the neighborhood, Wild Wild West, other shows on the network. Great stuff for Denver Broncos and Colorado Avalanche sports. So that concludes this week's episode. We'll see you next week, normal time Monday, since it'll be after the Detroit game. So Monday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, back to our regularly scheduled time. Just because this week there was one college football championship that sometimes gets in the way of a better show, but it happens. Again, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ClusterPuckAvs. Follow us on Facebook at the ClusterPuck Podcast. Email us your favorite cookie recipes at the ClusterPuckPodcast@gmail.com. Any other things to add, Britt?
No, I don't think so. Just throwing it out there. Mike did put us on Apple Podcasts now. So if you listen
very good.
Apple, we are on there now. So
perfect. So that'll conclude it. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, go Avs go, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
'Cause this party is